Reddit has become an absolute global phenomenon. Take us back to when Reddit was founded. When did you guys found it and why? And where were you?
So Steve Huffman and I started it. Technically, we started the company while we were in Charlottesville, Virginia, as undergrads at UVA, Mr. Jefferson's University. I see some Wahoos in there. The original company we had started was called My Mobile Menu, or and. Is that because it was a great name or a terrible name? I'm really proud of my branding, but all right, fine.
My Mobile
Menu.
And tell us what My Mobile Menu did.
I'm sensing you would have not invested in us. We wanted to allow people to order food from their cell phones 5 blocks away from the Starbucks.
This is 2005.
It was 2005 So the smartest phone was a Trio, exactly, with a stylus or some jank. We were going to figure out an SMS solution.
The General.
Yeah.
So's.
Yeah.
Chicken.
It was a little early. But we knew we were going to do it. We knew we were going to do it. I talked Steve out of taking a nice, comfortable job at a software company in Virginia, and then we heard a guy named Paul Graham give a talk in Harvard called "How to Start a Startup," and it was during our senior year spring break. We were the only people in Virginia going to Boston on our senior year spring break because beaches suck for laptops. The glare. There's no internet.
Yeah. Why would you go to
a beach?
Yeah. Why would you go to a beach during spring break and
Absurd.
hang out on the beach with a bunch of girls?
Why would you do that? You had a very different college experience than Steve and I did.
So anyway,
we hit level 60 in World of Warcraft, which is true. It's true.
So you have the chance to go party in Miami. You decide, fuck it, let's go.
We're going to Boston.
Hear Paul Graham talk about startups.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And is this before? Is this the?
It's before YC.
Before YC, yeah. I was about to say.
This was just Paul Graham, the sort of internet pundit who had success in the first boom, making the first online store, Yahoo Stores, or Via Web, which was originally called. And Steve was just a huge fan of his because Steve was a Lisp programmer. Any Lisp programmers? Of course not. There's one. Yeah. I'm sorry. Well, Steve.
You see the homeless guy across the street? He was a Lisp programmer.
Lispers. Beware.
That shows you the market.
Scorned. Yeah. But we went up there because Steve was a huge fan of his essays, and I thought, this seems like it'll be really useful. It's called How to Start a Startup, and we met with him afterward. Steve got a book signed, and then I followed, and I was like, Dr. Graham, it would be really worth buying it would really be worth buying you a drink to pitch you on our idea. We came all the way up from Virginia, and he was just shocked. I think we came all the way from Virginia, and said, all right, we'll meet up. And we met with him and pitched him for like an hour, and he loved it. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, he announces Y Combinator, and we applied. And we went up there, interviewed, did a great job interviewing, and they rejected us. And then we got drunk. And the next morning...
So wait, take us to that moment where you got rejected, because this is the first year. There wasn't really a formal process.
Yeah, no one knew.
So what, you get an email like, wah, wah?
We got a phone call that night, and I remember this is... I finally admitted this in the book. I hadn't actually told anyone. It's just easier to type. That night, Paul calls and he says, "I'm really sorry. It's just not going to work." And I don't know it wasn't that abrupt. He was polite about it. But anyway, we got really drunk. And we hung out with a bunch of friends of ours who were Harvard graduates. And we met some of their friends who had just gotten jobs, great banking jobs at Lehman Brothers probably. And they were bragging.
Bear Stearns.
Yeah, they were so proud, so cocksure. And they were bragging to us about all the money they were going to make, and I was so ashamed. I was like, "Yeah, you think that's cool? We just got into Y Combinator. It's this seed stage accelerator for tech startups, and we're going to just do amazing stuff with And it sucked so much as the lie was coming out of my mouth. It felt so bad, and so I drank more. And
always a good solution.
It's well. Yeah, there might be. Well, yeah, it was for that night.
Okay, wait. So now, how does our hero or heroes get accepted back into Y Combinator?
Blackmail. No, we called. We took the train back to Virginia that next morning, hungover, of course. And Paul calls, and I pick up, and he says, "Listen, we like you guys. We just don't like the idea. It's too early for mobile. If you're willing to kill this company a year in that you've been working on, we'll let you into the program." And it took us about 5 seconds. And we got on the next train back to Boston, sat with Paul for about an hour, and he just sat us down and said, all right, forget mobile, build something on the web. What problems do you guys have every single day? And Steve was a heavy Slashdot user. I read a bunch of tabs every morning of news websites, but neither one of us had a solution for really news, like a new kind of website that would be a front page for everything. And Paul had mentioned delicious/popular. Now, note, at this point, I have not said the word dig because we did not know about dig, but we knew about delicious/popular.
I mean, and in fairness, that was Kevin's inspiration for Dig. He always gave credit to Delicious, which was started here in New York by Josh.
Yeah, Joshua Schechter.
Joshua Schechter. Delicious.com, which was a bookmarking tool, allowed people, just said, these were the things that were bookmarked the most today.
Yes.
And bookmarks were the signal.
Yes, and we noticed, so we had never used it, but Paul was talking about it, and we thought, you know what, there's an interesting thing here. The byproduct of people bookmarking reference material, to look at later, like Ajax tutorials or like travel planning, was an interesting kind of zeitgeist, but it was only a zeitgeist for reference material, not for what was new. So like, here's social bookmarking, it's doing its thing really well until Yahoo acquires it and kills it, and we needed to be something else that was a place for people to go to find the more ephemeral news of the day. And that's how we got started with Reddit.
Now, it took a while for it to catch on, but it's become quite a phenomenon. When did you know that this was more than just, a small little boutique startup effort?
We knew we were onto something when the great Jason Calacanis was trying to buy our users.
Yes.
And
You're being facetious.
Well, it was interesting because at that moment we realized, because I remember, so let me make this more clear. Y Combinator was nothing. No one had ever heard of it. It wasn't anything that was important to anyone.
It was based in Boston. There were, 10 people in the class, the first one?
There were maybe 10 companies. The demo day, which is today the most contested, I'd argue, in the world, had like 12 of Paul's rich friends who were just like, what the fuck are we doing here? You said there was going to be free food and booze, and who is this kid talking on stage about Reddits? And we were in Somerville, Massachusetts. We, literally never got press in TechCrunch until the day we got acquired. We felt very much on our own in our own little world, and we were two dudes in a little apartment working in our underwear in between games of World of Warcraft on something, and it took months for anyone to really start caring. But when we saw signals like that, we thought, you know what, we're onto something. And thankfully we had great mentors in Paul, because when we found out about Dig about 2 weeks after we launched, and I looked like a fool for doing a really terrible competitive analysis, he said some great advice, and I found the email, because I was tired of people always asking me, oh, did you copy Dig? I found the email, and it just said, meet the enemy, dig.com. And Paul was like, you idiot, don't be worried. Competitors will never beat you. You only beat yourself. And rather prophetic at that.
Yeah.